Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tyler and I am the owner here at Tyler Wiebe Fitness, and welcome to my YouTube channel if this is your first time watching. If not, welcome back. I do appreciate it. In my channel, and we'll quickly dive into today's topic as well, but on my channel here, what my biggest goal here for you is to take all of the information that is out there in the fitness industry. It can be very confusing, there can be a lot of it, and so it can be a little bit overwhelming. So my goal is to just bring it here, 10 minutes or less, break it down, and give you, the person watching, the easiest steps possible that you can take with yourself, move forward, and apply them to your fitness journey. So, like I said, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into today's topic. So this one is going to build a little bit on my two previous videos. Now, you certainly don't have to watch those, but it can be helpful. Those are just going to be 1, 2 right down below the video here in the description. The links are there, so go ahead, go check them out, come back and watch this. But today's topic is going to be all about what foods do we eat for fat loss. So this is a big question, and one that may come with an answer that might surprise you depending on where you are at in your fitness journey. The first thing that I do want to go through, though, and this is going to kind of set up the rest of the video and what we talk about, is the idea of flexible dieting, okay? So to me, this is not a type of diet, but this is more of a mindset that we can have around food. And essentially what it boils down to is there is no such thing as good food. There's no such thing as bad foods, aka there's no clean, there's no dirty. Depending on what you eat is not going to strictly lead to fat gain or fat loss. There is no magic foods. Now, I do apologize. Unfortunately, that is not the case, because guess what? If that was the case, we would not have an obesity issue. Everyone would be eating X food, and we'd all have the dream bodies that we would want. So, yes, we do have to make sure that we understand that concept. And that, I do find, though, can actually be very, very helpful for someone's fat loss journey, because now we are not forcing ourselves to eat certain foods that we may not like that are, typically considered clean, if you will. And I'm just going to use that word throughout the video just because we all do know what we're talking about, despite there, not being a true definition for clean versus dirty food. So, for example, let's say you hate broccoli. Well, guess what? You don't have to eat broccoli. Let's say you hate fish. Well, guess what? You don't need to eat fish. Two very common staples in a lot of the typical meal plans that you will see out there. And so we do want to make sure that we are keeping the psychology of the person in mind when we are dieting. Food plays a very big role in our lives. And so if we are constantly forcing ourselves to do things we do not like, well, guess what? Eventually we are going to give up, we are going to stop, and there's a very good chance that we are going to swing back the other way in an extreme way. And that is a lot of the times where you see people regain a lot of that body fat they've lost. They're doing extreme diets, they're cutting out whole macronutrient sources, etc. And so we really want to make sure that we keep this in mind. That being said, that does not mean that I am an advocate for just going out and eating a bunch of dirty food, if you will. That probably also isn't going to get you very far. And so instead of being on two extremes here, we really want to look and find ourselves in the middle here. And so when it comes to dieting, my recommendation to all of my clients is always 80-90% of the time. Of course, depending on where their calories are at, that might change a little, but 80 to 90% plus of the time, we want to really be making sure that we are filling our diet with whole nutrient dense sources. Okay, so what is that going to do for us if there is no magic fat loss? Well, one, typically, like I just said, these are calorically dense, and so for the most part, you are going to be able to eat a lot. Okay, again, that a lot of food is relative, depending on where calories are at. And you are not going to quickly run out of calories. So if we say, hey, you know what, let's put Pop-Tarts up against, let's say, sweet potatoes, well, guess what? Sweet potatoes is probably going to be a lot more filling, plus it's going to have a lot more micros and nutrients and vitamins that are going to help with our overall health and recovery, whereas the Pop-Tarts with 2,000 calories, let's say, it's going to take up quite a bit. It's about 75 grams of carbs, about 15, I believe, grams of fat, and it's not going to be very filling, and so good chances that you are going to be quite hungry very shortly after. So that is one of the benefits of making sure that we're going to have those whole nutrient dense foods, is that it's going to save us a little bit on the hunger, but that is just a natural part of dieting. Secondly, it's going to help a lot with your recovery. So kind of like I was mentioning with the sweet potatoes, typically these type of foods, they are going to have a lot more minerals and vitamins that are going to be pretty important to our overall process in our body. And so this is also going to help us recover for our training sessions. Hopefully we're going to get some better sleep. And when all of those things are in sync, is going to help optimize the fat loss process. So while the certain food may not help with the fat loss, making sure that we are having clean sources, we're working on our recovery, our sleep, our training intensity is there. All of those things in conjunction with each other are going to help lead to better rates of fat loss. So Tyler, you're probably asking, what foods should I include? Well, I'm gonna help you out there a little bit, but of course, remember, if you don't like a certain food, well, don't eat it then. We don't need to have that in your diet. You could always swap it out for something else. But basically what I like to do when I'm dieting is I will take a few different foods from each macronutrient source, and I will just mainly rotate through those throughout the whole of my diet. I am certainly someone that can eat the same thing every day, and so if you are that type of person, definitely take advantage of that, as that can really help to keep things a lot more simpler, a lot more easier, and you're going to be able to kind of just create those things on the fly. So having, protein sources like chicken breast, chicken thighs, please don't forget about chicken thighs. Tastes so much better than chicken breasts. Yes, a little bit fattier, but for the flavor and for how boring chicken breast can be, definitely don't forget about that. Eggs, which also can then double as a fat source, egg whites, non-fat Greek yogurt, extra lean ground beef, lean cuts of steak, fish. These are all fantastic protein sources that you can easily build meals around. Carbohydrate sources that can get a little bit trickier and be a little bit more limited as the diet goes along. So things like sweet potatoes, even potatoes, although the carbs can be a little bit higher, rice, oats, and then of course you want to make sure that we're including your veggies and your fruit into your diet as well. That would also be then considered a fiber source so that you are staying on top of your digestion. But those would be the main ones that I would pick from. Not to say that you can't have other carb sources, but those few are probably going to be the best bang for your buck, easy to prepare and easy to fit with any other protein source. Fats, now you certainly are going to get trace fats from some of your protein sources. You might get a little bit from some carb sources depending on the carb source, but you are going to want to make sure that you are watching what type of fat sources you are getting. So you can still use some things like olive oil for cooking, although they can add up fairly quickly. Other things would be, some cheese, some avocados, cooking oil, like I mentioned. You can even look at having some nuts, but again, that can add up fairly quickly. But basically what I would do is I would take, some from each list, start creating your own little meals, plan ahead of time, and create your own little meal plan that you can rotate through that with foods that you know you're going to enjoy, you're not going to get tired of eating, they're going to fuel you properly, and what that is all going to do is going to lead to a lot more consistency and a lot more results. Alright guys, we are cutting it short on the 10 minutes. We're still working on it, still getting used to it, but that's going to be it for today. If you have any questions, need any other clarification, definitely drop a comment below or feel free to DM me. Have a great rest of your day, everyone, and until next time.